you said wobble around like it's dizzy, you would be right if I were to like rip about half of these spines off. Since the spines are distributed symmetrically around the object, they do create turbulent airflow. If I was to take a smoke bomb and hold it underneath this guy, you'd see the smoke goes from smooth airstream into horribly chaotic, turbulent flow. But since that turbulence is symmetrical around the object, it just slows the object down. So a little bit of chaos over here is counteracted by a little bit of chaos over there. So turbulent flow doesn't necessarily have the effect of causing an object to wobble. The only times you see a wobble is if we get this loop here, which is the only different part of the object. If that ends up in the wind, then it might start trying to yank that loop back to the top, or it might try to yank that loop back up to the top. Just leaving them alone, they're falling pretty much straight down. All the turbulence does is slow the object down. If I was to take this same volume of silicone and cast it into a shape of a bullet, with those spines, then it would fall way faster out of the plane. Next up, we've got the wiffle balls. This object looks like it should fly chaotically, but instead flies smooth. The wiffle balls are, material-wise, way more smooth, but let's see if we start getting the behavior we were expecting from this guy. As soon as those holes get the wind, suddenly we're starting to see some chaos. If we can get the little holes up on top, then the area exposed to the surface is perfectly smooth. That's not bad. As soon as those holes get a grasp of the air flows through the holes into the object and starts pushing on it. The thing to notice here is that none of them are wobbling exactly the same way. There's not a single mode of flight for one of them. Mode of flight means if I toss it out of the plane, close my eyes for 10 seconds and look back, then I predict what it's going to look like. Like if I throw a dart out of the plane, I can predict what that's going to look like 10 seconds from now. It's going to have the needle pointed down, it's going to have the tail feathers on top. If you toss a wiffle ball out of the plane, close your eyes, check back in 10 seconds, you cannot predict if it's going to be doing small circles or like big lazy circles. Because it's too too dependent on the initial conditions. The way that all the air molecules just exactly happen to hit it is going to determine between a couple of different spiral modes. Now next up we're going to talk about surface area. What he's going to do is he's going to spin it and it's going to launch up into the sky. We can't change the object's weight, but by giving it a spin, we can change how much air is slamming it into its underside. When we spin the object, the object's folded like that, the air's not quite enough to lift it up. As soon as we spin it, it launches into the sky. That's because spinning it causes centrifugal force to widen out the object. Now more air is slamming into its underside. As it slows down, the object starts to curl back into a ball, and it comes back down.
They'll either be really impressive or they'll try and die. So either way,
just fold it down, fold it up, and spinning. We can change whether it's a little bit buoyant, not buoyant, or launching into the sky. Especially if it hits the wall, then it really curls up, even more than it normally would, and that really drops it back down. All right. Next up, we've got our mascot for first-time flyers. Oh, yeah, mascot. All right. Got my magnets in there. So, what we're going to demonstrate here is that without the use of propellers, thrusters, rocket motors, we can impart a thrust onto the object and cause it to drive forward or back. So, what it's going to throw it, it's going to return like a boomerang. He throws it and returns like a boomerang just because he's given it a spin. What's happening there is air stuck to the surface on this side is getting helped along in the direction it was trying to go. Air stuck to the surface here is getting pushed back in the direction it came from. That air traffic jams the air next to it, which traffic jams the air next to it, which traffic jams the air next to it, creating a high pressure zone. There's more air over here. This is having a harder time getting past this side. That high pressure zone is basically a wave that can cause the ball to surf forward. So if you throw the ball like this, it comes back to you. If you throw the ball like that, it accelerates away from you. And then of course if we balance it just where we're driving into the air, try to keep it on your fingertip.
Is it easier than if you were there?
Yeah, like trying to bounce it on your finger. Yeah, because it's like set the wind to where it's basically buoyant, almost like a swimming pool. And then from there, if I put my hand underneath it, I'm blocking some of the air. So now it goes from buoyant to slightly falling. So it's going to have a little bit of gravity, but not as much as it would out here. Now here, it's going to immediately try to fall. Here, it's kind of barely balancing. It's like a balloon that's weakly inflated. Try to keep it on one finger. All right, next up, got our mascot for first-time flyers. Sloth is our mascot because he's got the right mindset for flying. If you get pushed off a plane, the worst thing you can do is try to get into a fist fight with the wind. That's just going to confuse the wind. It's going to have no idea what you're asking it to do. On the other hand, the slower you move, the more willing the wind is to work with you and find you a stable flying position. If an inanimate object can fly stably, so can you.
That is crazy.
Yep. Well, one thing I can't explain scientifically is that in the 4 years Sloth's been flying with us, he has gotten better.
Wow.
Yeah, when he first started flying with us, he had a tendency to stick his arms back down here like a wingsuiter, which caused him to tilt forward and fly his head straight into the wall. That's why we want to keep our hands out in front of us while we're flying.
So he's just learning.
Yep. We probably stretched out a little bit, it seems. I like to think that he actually learned how to fly.
Yeah.
I like that narrative better. Yep. All right. So like I say, you guys notice additional sloths, around the building. That's because we're trying to send a message here. Our mascot is a sloth, not a caffeinated rodent. All right. And then lastly, we're going to get a look at what's going on inside of a rain cloud. Rain clouds are created when you have warm air with a lot of moisture in it. That warm air rises like a hot air balloon. That warm air rises up until it reaches an area of cold, dry air. Once it hits the dry air, the water starts condensing, like droplets forming on the side of a Coke bottle. Like I say, water, like up in the sky, there's going to be something like soot, pollen, dust. Water sticks to water, sticking to the water, sticking to the dust, and creates a globe. Things to notice: there's no pointy end on top of the raindrop. The reason we think there's a pointy end is because we're used to seeing raindrops on glass or on somebody's face. So the pointy end, the shape of the pointy end, that is a teardrop. So what we're seeing here is we're seeing a range of droplets. Some of them are too small to overcome the updraft. Some of them are big enough that they can fall down to earth as rain. Once a raindrop has collected, enough rain, it's heavier than the updraft that brought it up into the sky, and it's able to fall down. Otherwise, if it's too small, it's just got to keep collecting water until it's heavy enough. Now, as cool as the water demo is, it leaves the tunnel constructor totally soaked. Luckily, we've got a fix for that. So pay attention to the surface area.